So as we check in with the latest news across the National Football League, we'll start things off with the Combine here. And Shaquem Griffin stole a lot of headlines the last couple of days. And the linebacker out of UCF did a fantastic job on the 40-yard dash time, 4.38 seconds. The fastest for a linebacker in over a decade, and of course, Shaquem Griffin is the brother of Shaquem, and his official 40-yard dash time was also 4.3 seconds. So I guess birds of a feather flock together. I don't know. But Griffin had 20 reps on the bench at 225 pounds, utilizing, by the way, a prosthetic due to his missing hand, which was amputated at a very young age. So really a fantastic story at that, and scouts project Griffin as a core special teams type of player who could develop into maybe an outside linebacker or strong safety. You know, it's interesting, at the Senior Bowl, Shaquem Griffin played at all three levels of the defense, played at the line, linebacker, and safety. And Griffin, of course, was a fantastic player at UCF, primarily as a pass rusher for the last 2 seasons, won defensive MVP of the Peach Bowl, where he made 12 tackles with 3.5 tackles for loss, including 1.5 sacks and a win over Auburn to complete that 13-0 national championship season, shall we say. He is attempting to become the first one-handed NFL player in the modern era, and I was watching the tape, and Pete Carroll got noticeably hyped up after Shaquem's 40-yard dash. So as of now, he's a predicted 5th-round pick here. But maybe he joins his brother, Shaquem, out there in Seattle. So we shall see. Shaquem Griffin making some big-time headlines, and really a fantastic story at that. Let's get into the next headline here. Ryan Shazier, will he return to the NFL? Well, he won't be coming back in 2018. That we know. But he is planning on a return to the National Football League at some point. Shazier was on a call recently with Rich Eisen and Mike Mayock, and he was adamant he's returning to football. He does understand that recovery is going to take some time, and Pittsburgh Steelers scout Mark Gorsak dedicated linebacker workouts at the Combine to Shazier, so a nice little story there. Shazier has rehab 4 times a week. He was talking about that and says he's getting better every single day. Reality is, and I think he knows it, he's not going to play in 2018, but Shazier could eye a comeback maybe down the line further, 2019, etc. Just 25 years old, by the way. He's not an old geezer by any means, so he's got a lot of promise ahead of him, a lot of more great football in the future for Ryan Shazier. And, you know, he was talking about the process and the injury and all that, and he had this, quote, why me kind of moment that I can't really imagine. And I actually thought about this when Ryan Shazier got hurt was, boy, when that went down and he's going through the recovery process and he's in the hospital and he's got all the time in the world to really think back and recap what just happened, having this why me kind of mentality, it's hard to prevent. And it kind of crossed my mind. I mean, I probably assumed it'd probably go through my mind too if I went through this kind of injury. Like, out of all the people in the world, why is it me that has to go through this process? So really, really tough situation, really tough injury there for Ryan Shazier, but he is planning on returning to football, so that is really good news. All right, next headline here. The Eagles, will they keep Vinny Curry? He had a good year at the defensive end position, but the Eagles, they're strapped for cash in terms of the salary cap space, and they need to make some cuts here to free some stuff up and free some space up. So apparently one of those decisions was to cut Vinny Curry. At least that was the initial report. But recent developments suggest the Eagles and Curry are actually negotiating a lower salary. So Curry is due to make $9 million in 2018, and his departure would save the Eagles $5 million in their 2018 cap. So Curry, of course, a 2012 second-rounder, had 22 sacks and 5 forced fumbles his past 6 seasons, and with 2017 first-round pick Derek Barnett waiting in the wing here, maybe Curry is somewhat expendable. And the Philadelphia Eagles have a very deep defensive line. Timmy Jernigan, Fletcher Cox, the list goes on. Brandon Graham, etc. So maybe Vinny Curry is a guy that the Philadelphia Eagles could kind of let go. But the recent reports suggest that the Eagles would like to keep him. Just comes down to financials. Will Vinny Curry take less money after winning a Super Bowl which seems to be counterintuitive because when you win a Super Bowl and you have a ring, you kind of use that supply and demand curve to your benefit, if you will, where the demand is probably a little higher for this guy after winning a Super Bowl and having a pretty darn good season. So that is the latest with Vinny Curry. The reality for the Philadelphia Eagles, though, they have to make some tough decisions and probably some tough salary cap casualties. But do let me know in the comments section what your thoughts are on the Philadelphia Eagles and whether or not they can repeat as Super Bowl champions, right? I mean, if Nick Foles can do it at the quarterback position, you bring in Carson Wentz, presumably going to be healthy, hey, why not? And everybody chiming in the comments section here on the Cam Rogers Show on this Monday morning. We do appreciate it. Jay getting going on the comments section. So step aside, She-Girls. Dallas got this. LOL. Ooh, all right, Jay. Cowboys faithful coming in hot on the Cam Rogers Show this morning. One of our frequent watchers here on the show. We appreciate the comments, Jay. Thanks so much for coming along for the ride here. Let's go into a potential trade that could go down. Michael Bennett. So the Falcons are inquiring about getting Michael Bennett. And this makes sense from a standpoint of need because Dontari Poe is going to walk into free agency. All signs point to that. So there is a hole there on the defensive line, and Michael Bennett could come in. Of course, Bennett signed a 3-year extension in December of 2016. And the Falcons are one of multiple teams, by the way, inquiring about Michael Bennett. But the Falcons seem to be the front runner, according to my reading, my research. And for Bennett's contract, 3 years remaining with base salaries of $1.65 million, then $6 million, then $7.5 million. And, of course, have that Dan Quinn connection with Michael Bennett. Quinn, of course, former defensive coordinator and defensive line coach in Seattle. And so he knows Michael Bennett very well. Pricing will be interesting to monitor here, but the last time the Falcons traded for a veteran starter, they surrendered 2 6th-round picks to Tennessee for left guard Andy Levitre. It will be very intriguing to see how much Michael Bennett will go for. And the Falcons, by the way, they're in good shape on that front seven. They really impressed me last year. Have a couple of fantastic young edge rushers and Vic Beasley and Tack McKinley, and you got Grady Jarrett there too, who had a really fantastic year. So everything's on the upswing, except the departure of Dontari Poe could leave a little bit of a hole there. So the Falcons see that. They're in talks with Seattle right now and perhaps getting Bennett to head on over to Georgia. All right, let's check in with Jarvis Landry. He's one of the big-time storylines this offseason. So the report is that Landry intends to sign the franchise tag, which would pay him around $16 million in 2018 if the Dolphins keep him. But signing the tag really means that, okay, now I can be traded. And another little subplot in the Jarvis Landry headline is, well, the Dolphins gave Landry permission to go out and talk with other teams to perhaps facilitate some sort of trade. And you all know probably by now that it's a non-exclusive rights franchise tag, which means other teams can freely negotiate with Jarvis Landry and also match whatever offer the Dolphins have on their table. But we're not even going to look at that because if they go that route, any team out there outbids the Miami Dolphins, they're going to have to compensate the Dolphins with 2 first-round picks. That's not happening. So the other avenues would be a trade. The Dolphins sign an extension with Landry before that July 16th deadline, or Landry plays out 2018 under the franchise tag, earning roughly $16 million. So at least 5 teams are in negotiations with Jarvis Landry as we stand, according to what I understand. And the Chicago Bears and the Baltimore Ravens are reportedly the front runners for the wide receiver. And Landry, just 25 years old, has 400 receptions, 22 touchdowns, and 3 Pro Bowl appearances since he entered the league in 2014. Which team will Landry play for in 2018? Open up that crystal ball for me as you watch the Cam Rogers Show and hit me with the respective reaction. Give us a heart for the Ravens, a like for the Bears, laughing face for the San Francisco 49ers, or a wow face if you think it's another team. And for that other team, hit me in the comments section. Let me know which team that will be. I'm hearing maybe the Tennessee Titans would be an interesting option. Some other teams out there as well. So be sure to let me know here on the Cam Rogers Show because we don't suggest your participation. We demand your participation, so be sure to hit me up with those reactions. Let's check in with Kirk Cousins. What's the latest with him? So it's a 4-team race from what I understand. Cardinals, Jets, Vikings, and Broncos all in on the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. And the Minnesota Vikings are reportedly the front runner to land the former Washington Redskin quarterback, and New York media actually recently reported that the Jets leadership actually fears that Kirk Cousins could be headed to the Vikings after speaking with sources within the Cousins camp. So the Jets are worried that their blank check, in a sense, because they have a lot of salary cap space, will not be enough to land Kirk Cousins, and the Vikings might be able to sweep up Kirk from the Denver Broncos, Arizona Cardinals as well. So from what I've gathered, Cousins' priority is win now more so than money, especially after making a good chunk of change playing under the franchise tag for the Redskins the last couple of years, making $43.9 million the last 2 years. It's a pretty good amount of money. And so Kirk Cousins apparently is willing to sacrifice some salary for an opportunity to win a ring. And if we are going off of that thinking from Kirk, that would make the Vikings and the Broncos 1 and 2 in terms of priority. And the Vikings, obviously, among this list here, are in the best position to win a Super Bowl next season because they have the complete defense. That's fantastic. They have Dalvin Cook coming back at the running back position. A couple of fantastic wide receivers and Thielen and Stephon Diggs. It's all there for Kirk Cousins if he wants to go. But something tells me that the Denver Broncos are going to be very, very active this offseason to really reel in Kirk Cousins over to Mile High. And the Broncos are expected to clear roughly around $40 million in cap space to make a run at Kirk Cousins. And let's say they whiff on Kirk. I'm expecting the Denver Broncos to make a run at Case Keenum. If the Vikings miss out on Cousins, apparently they're going to be looking into A.J. McCarron as plan B. So keep an eye on those two names as well. So Kirk Cousins has narrowed it down to Cardinals, Jets, Vikings, and Broncos, and the chase is on for the best quarterback in free agency this offseason. All right, let's go into Saquon Barkley. Will he go #1 overall in the 2018 NFL Draft? After a fantastic combine performance, there's no doubt about it, the Barkley buzz is happening. You got to love that alliteration, Barkley buzz. Start spreading it around. Ian Rappaport suggested Barkley is firmly in the mix to go #1 overall, and a running back hasn't gone #1 overall since 1995, folks. So within this millennium, a running back has not gone #1 overall. The Browns have the #4 overall pick as well. And I think it's possible that Barkley doesn't make it that far to #4. So if the Browns think that is the case, and perhaps they weigh Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield all on that same plateau, go ahead, draft Saquon Barkley at #1, and then get either a Baker, an Allen, a Rosen, or a Darnold at #4. But if the Browns fall in love with one quarterback over the other 3, then maybe Cleveland's going to have to pass on Saquon and pray that he falls to them at #4. So who will go #1 overall in the 2018 draft? I bring up this question again because apparently it's not so clear. You know, there's an argument to be made now that Saquon Barkley could be the top dog once the 2018 NFL draft comes around. Maybe people are starting to buy into the Josh Allen hype after the very solid combine that he had. Maybe people are starting to feel a little wary about Josh Rosen. Didn't have the greatest combine over the weekend. So I think it's a really interesting question to start weighing around. I mean, you see at the bottom of the graphic that we had up there on Saquon, 4.41, 40-yard dash, 29 reps on the bench, 41-inch vertical, an absolute freak athlete, and I can't wait to watch him in the NFL. But which team will he play for? That's the big-time question mark. How about this question mark? Dez Bryant, will he return to the Dallas Cowboys? So Jerry Jones continues to play the good cop in the Dez Bryant saga. He suggested at this time Dez will remain with the Dallas Cowboys, saying, quote, "As I sit here, do we want him on the team next year?" The answer is yes, and Bryant is set to make 17 or 12.5 million and count 16.5 million against the salary cap in 2018. Meanwhile, Stephen Jones is kind of the bad cop in all of this, saying stuff like, well, Dez Bryant has a tendency to be a distraction, mentioned a few times that the contract needs to be addressed, and the Cowboys could save as much as $12.5 million if Dez Bryant is cut after that June 1st line there. If it's before June 1st, the savings is smaller. It's around the $8 million mark. Dez would still count $4 million against the 2019 cap if he is cut after the June 1st line. So should the Cowboys cut Dez Bryant? Give me a heart for yes, a like for no. It's one of the more polarizing storylines so far this offseason. There are arguments to be made on both sides. Tom Downey, the fantastic host of the Cowboys Report here, is very much in the camp that the Cowboys should not cut Dez Bryant because who are you going to get in return, while other people out there say, yes, get rid of him, it's time to move on. So be sure to hit that heart or like button depending on how you feel. If you're watching on YouTube, by the way, be sure to throw in that heart and like or thumbs up, if you will, into the comment section too. All right, finally, this one came through the wires early this morning. Le'Veon Bell expected to get the franchise tag before the deadline tomorrow at 4 p.m. And it looks like the Steelers and Bell could not come to a long-term agreement before that deadline. So you buy a little bit more time by giving Le'Veon Bell the franchise tag, because then the Steelers have until July 16th to get a long-term deal done. The big question mark about Le'Veon, will he sign that franchise tag? Kind of like how we wondered, would Jarvis Landry sign that franchise tag? And we do know that he's going to do that, but Le'Veon Bell, totally different story here. He wants to get paid as a number 2 wide receiver in the National Football League and a number 1 running back. He wants to be valued. I understand it. And this could go into deep into June. I mean, there could be a scenario where Le'Veon Bell doesn't show up for offseason workouts, etc. So he's going to get the franchise tag before the deadline. All signs point to that. But from there on out, a lot of uncertainty with Le'Veon Bell. Those are your latest NFL headlines, news, and rumors.